Right, good morning ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this meeting of the Cabinet at Staffordshire County Council today, Wednesday the 26th of January 2022. First item on the agenda is apologies for absence. Mr Bradbury.
Good morning, Leader. I have one apology, and that's from Philip White.
Thank you. Second item on the agenda is declarations of interest in accordance with Standing Order 16. Are there any declarations of interest? I see no hands being raised. Before I start on the strategic plan, which is the third item on the agenda, I'd like to welcome Councillor Colin Greatorex, who is the Chairman of Strategic Overview and Scrutiny Committee. The purpose of Councillor Greatorex's presence this morning is to give the feedback from the Corporate Scrutiny Committee on the scrutiny of the strategic plan and the medium-term financial strategy. There has been a medium-term financial strategy working group, has worked alongside Cabinet members throughout the course of this, and it will be for Councillor Greatorex to present his findings and views from the Corporate Overview and Scrutiny Committee after I've done, and subsequently Councillor Parry has done his presentation for agenda item number 4. Once Councillor Greatorex has done his presentation, I would invite Cabinet members to make comments if necessary and or respond to Councillor Greatorex's views as he raises them. So that is the format for this morning's meeting. So the first item then is the strategic plan. Ladies and gentlemen, we present here the strategic plan for Staffordshire County Council for the next 4-year period. We've reviewed the evidence base, we've looked at performance and future priorities, and what we've tried to avoid is making it overly long and avoiding using difficult language. So my other concern with strategic plans is those that do extend over a number of pages tend not to get read. So what we're trying to do is make sure we've got a plan that's easy to read, is concise, and is accessible to all people who would wish to read it. I just want to highlight some of the successes that we've had over the past couple of years before I move to the strategic plan itself for 22 to 26. First of all, I just want to highlight children and communities and the work that's been going on there. The children's system transformation has been a huge undertaking, and it's tribute to the portfolio holder, Councillor Sutton, and Mrs. Riley and her team that's taken place successfully. Building resilient families and communities is another area of success, and as is family hubs. I'm just highlighting 3 things within children and communities, or families and communities, that are the successes. I could go on with all the portfolios with an extensive list, but time prohibits. Within health and care, the COVID-19 response, community help points, Staffordshire warmer homes, and I was just speaking to colleagues earlier about the additional money that's going into Staffordshire warmer homes. We see people protesting all over the place about Insulate Britain. Well, Staffordshire County Council is insulating, okay, and playing a key role, a leading role in making sure that homes are insulated, which will also help to protect people from the increase in fuel costs that are coming down the line. And I'd also like to just flag up a couple of dementia centres that have come forward in Stafford and Burton. Again, with health and care, I pay tribute to Councillor Jessel and the work of her department, and Dr. Richard Harling for his work during the COVID-19 response, which has been absolutely tremendous. The third area I just want to highlight is economy and infrastructure. 4 areas there that I'd just like to flag up. Staffordshire means back to business, an area of great success. Economic growth programme, seeing 10,000 jobs being created and 4,000 new homes amongst other items going on. Things you can see, touch and feel, things like Lichfield Southern Bypass, the Stafford Western Access Road, I-54 Western Extension. Lots going on to support our economy. And then on top of that, through Councillor Tagg's department, the 25% reduction in CO2 emissions. And I know he is determined to continue to drive that forward. So moving forward then to the strategic plan for the next 4-year period, you'll see there's a very clear vision. It's innovative, ambitious and sustainable, where everyone has the opportunity to prosper, be healthy and happy. But those words have to mean something, and those words are broadened out on the plan on a page, which you'll see in the document before you, which I think is on page, just getting to it, get there eventually. It's on page 16 of your electronic document and 14 of the paper document. You'll see the priorities there, and there are 5, and we will be held to account as a cabinet for the delivery on those priorities. So members of the public, fellow councillors will be able to ask, what are you doing to support Staffordshire's economy to grow, generate more and better paid jobs? And Mr. Ayres will be able to reel off a list of magnificent things that we are achieving. Tackling climate change, Councillor Tagg will be able to highlight work there. Now, sitting behind this, of course, are the one-year plans that each department will be coming up with to make sure that we are making steady progress towards achieving our objectives. So I don't want to dwell too much on the document. I would like to draw people's attention to the plan on the page, because that actually succinctly nails what our objectives are and how we will work. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, I'll conclude my presentation of the strategic plan. It's an exciting opportunity for the next 4 years. I want to thank Cabinet colleagues for all the work they've done to get us to this point. I know there's been a number of, many hours we've spent together working on this, and it's been a really fantastic exercise which has come up with this product. So with that, I'm going to hand over to Councillor Greatorex to make any comments that came back from his committee and ask Cabinet members to respond to that as appropriate. Councillor Greatorex.
Thank you, Leader. I think you've already had circulated by Mike a summary of the recommendations that we've made within the report, and there's a panel there with the Cabinet's response. So we're in a strange situation where we've given some feedback on the plan, you've given some feedback on the feedback, and I'm now going to give some feedback on the feedback on the feedback. But here we go. I think the panel that you've provided is indicative of the fact that there's a general meeting of minds in terms of how the committee received the plan. I think we certainly were appreciative of the idea of the 5 priorities, the one story on a page, the visions and outcomes, and so the 5 priorities were supported. I think the fact that you've indicated on, 11 recommendations here, that most are noted or agreed, suggests that what we were putting forward was strongly supported. The comments I would make, if you like, going forward is, obviously we've indicated there's a need to agree the vision and aims and make them clear and concise, which I think you've just referred to in the way that you've done in your introduction, Leader. The comment, though, that I would take further is that there's a need to bring the communications to the eyes and ears of the members and the public, because whilst all of this is happening, it's referring to corporate delivery plan, which I know I'm very strongly trying to influence in terms of how that might be presented, and things like the Highways Transformation Programme. They are documents that you'll be working on, and the danger is to keep them too internal. Somehow you need to externalise those so that other members know what's going on, the public know what's going on. So that's a general comment about the Cabinet's response. How are you going to make those more known to the wider world? And the other comment that I raised when we discussed this is that whilst you're referring to documents that are forthcoming or being in development, and whilst you're referring to generic descriptors of how you'd like to achieve some of the objectives, there's a struggle for any detail. And it was interesting, you mentioned in your introduction things that you can see, touch and feel. And I think that's the expression I would use to bring out some of the definite proposals that are happening. Because whilst there's general discussion about growing business, improving the health and well-being, attacking climate change, looking at the potential for children and young persons, there are some generic statements here, and what I think you would do well to include is some specifics. And whilst you've got various targets, those targets aren't challengeable in some respects. So, for instance, fixing more roads is a statement, but is fixing one more road than the previous year a success? How do you measure that level of achievement? And school attendance targets to be improved. Well, again, if one more person attends school than attended the previous year, is that an achievement? So, as I say, most of the comments were very positive about the overall plan, and perhaps it's more of a personal comment from my point of view, that wherever possible you need some specifics in the plan to demonstrate that there's definite targets being achieved. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, and that was really helpful, and we referred to that during the corporate delivery plan of 2022-23, but Councillor Williams, in particular, your journey on the, if you excuse the pun, I guess, on the improvement of highways, is there any comments you'd like to make on that in terms of specifics?
Yes, thank you, Leader. And I agree a lot with what Councillor Greatrix has said there. Specifically wise, what we're trying to do and design is a way of being able to say what we can deliver and what we will be able to deliver within the financial constraints we find ourselves. I'm not going to lie that we're disappointed with DFT funding, but I have to say that this administration, with what we're looking to put into highways, is looking to be able to start a way to change the way that highways has been delivered in the past, to look at ways that we can go about delivering it and work using this business in the future. From the fact that we've listened to the members of the public and we've listened to members of the council, I think we've designed, and it is in my opinion, an improved and more effectively controlled method of being able to do this, and we will be able to state, hopefully, what we will be able to achieve. We are in no doubt that we cannot do everything. We also are in no doubt that we are in a position where we have certain roads and an amount of roads we need to maintain and repair. But what we are going to do is look at it in the most professional and proactive way and be able to deliver so that people can see real change out there. And when it comes to the specifics, yes, we are looking to be able to specifically say how many potholes we will repair properly at the first go, as in right first time. We will be able to say how much roads of our red roads that we have that we will be able to repair. And as well as this, we will be having to also go on the normal repairs that we have. We are in the pothole season, as it's called at the moment. So we're making sure that we will be able to do that. But specifically, we're already able to state how many gritters are out there, how much road we grit on a regular basis when it's needed, and the updates are going out. So I take all of Councillor Greatrix's points on board, and I think that our way going forward with the MTFS will be a very positive one. And when we bring forward what we are proposing for the changes in highways, I think that will demonstrate this. Thank you.
I think Councillor Greatrix is quite right to demand of us specific, substantial targets for us to achieve. It isn't good enough just to say, well, there's one more child attending school, and I think you're quite right to highlight that, Councillor Greatrix, and we will respond positively to that through the corporate delivery plan process, and I hope you'll be able to see that as part of further scrutiny work. Councillor DeVille.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Greatrix, for that report. It's very helpful. I think you said something really important, Colin, about improvements and work that our customers can touch and feel. That is so crucial. Yeah, our strategy is crystal clear. You know, we want to make people to be proud to live in our county, make Staffordshire, continue to make Staffordshire a great place to live, to learn, to work and to play, help people to feel safe in the county, and of course the economic part of our objectives is crucial to all of us. But that's just words on a page. You're dead right. This council, Councillor Greatrix, I think every meeting we attend, we talk about our customers, and we want our residents, and our residents are customers of ours. And I think every meeting that we attend, we look at and we speak of making it a good customer experience. So I think you're dead right when you say We need improvements that people can touch and feel. And that's absolutely where we're at. We're looking at very, very best quality of service to our customers at best value for money. And I think that all of our considerations, our objectives and our vision are around that total customer focus. Thank you, Mr. Greatrex, for that report. It was very useful.
Thank you very much indeed, Councillor DeVille. Councillor Jessel.
Thank you very much, Leader, and thank you very much, Councillor Greatrex. And if I can just say, I totally agree with the 3 recommendations that came from the Corporate Overview and Scrutiny Committee, particularly with support required for the voluntary sector. We do recognise that the brilliant work that they do will continue to do, and we hope to help them develop that in the future. And working very closely with my colleague, Councillor Victoria Wilson, we recognise that voluntary sector doesn't just happen. They do need their support, and we are investing in that. So very much support the comment you made, and yes, it's at the heart of what we're trying to do. And I think also in terms of the public health message, you know, we all want to live longer, but we want to live a longer, healthier life. And I think that's everybody's desire. I think the last 2 years have been quite difficult to get messages out. We've received, as members of the general population, so many messages about COVID. It's been very difficult with restrictions to interact with people. And I think our public health messages do need to be perhaps more personalised. Changing people's behaviours, which is what we're trying to do, is very difficult. And just a straight press release probably isn't going to hit the mark. There are people with our support, whether it's through weight management support, drug and sexual health support, have actually transformed their lives. And I think actually, if those people are willing, that is a very powerful message. So I think I take the point on board, and I think there is a better way, a more powerful way of us getting those messages through to the public to actually, it's in their interest to change the way they live. So thank you very much for those comments. The last recommendation you've made is very much about innovation within social care, within home care and care homes. We are already doing that, and I think it is vitally important because in terms of supporting the care market, that's what we need to do. That's what's within our strategy. And we're going about that. If we don't, I say to people, the demands on social care now and in the future will grow. If we don't do things differently, however much money is invested, the thing that we're going to come up against is there aren't the people working in those industries. As the older population grows in proportion to the general population, it is a problem we've known that we're going to come across for the last 40, 50 years. We need to do things differently. We have a real opportunity to use the technologies to support those services and drive through that efficiency. That's what's contained within the strategy, and that will be one of our focuses. Thank you.
Councillor Grater, so we'll come back to you at the end, but Cabinet members are also commenting on aspects of the strategic plan as it relates to them as well, so I'll bring you back in at the end if that's okay.
It was just to point out that we are talking about the strategic plan rather than the specifics of the MTFS report, because I think we strayed on to the next item.
Yeah, so we're on the strategic plan, I appreciate that. Councillor Tagg, Councillor Sutton.
Thank you, Leader. Yes, I welcome the strategic plan. I think this comes directly from, you know, when we were out on the doorsteps in the election of 2021, when we were listening to people, when we were putting our manifesto forward. I'm really pleased today that we've got all of those key elements in there, whether it's concentrating on highways and getting that highway situation sorted out, or whether it's putting climate change right at the centre of our strategic plan, which is the first time for this authority. So I'm really pleased that we brought this forward. My area, of course, is the climate change agenda, and I'm really pleased that we're going to concentrate on that carbon reduction, the natural environment, behavioural change of our residents, because, of course, the council only emits 1% of the whole county's carbon emissions. The rest is through business, domestic properties, transport. So that behavioural change, we are a key leader in that, and the county council is positioning itself as the leader in this. And then there's air quality, and then also ensuring that we minimise waste. So I think it's really important agenda that's central to this new strategic plan. And I think there are plans that sit behind it. Councillor Greatrix mentions that, a very valid point. And the plans on the climate change agenda were agreed at Cabinet in October, which is our climate change action plan, which the scrutiny committee will be monitoring very closely. And there is a working group that is chaired by Conor Wellman that is looking into that. And I look forward to seeing the overview that they do and working with them on that to bring forward some proposals that will help. I think the point on the comms side of this, and there's some really good things in this strategic plan. There's a really good plan. There's some really good things that have happened so far on the climate change agenda, such as that 25% reduction already, and the plans going forward to, improve that even further. I think we need, to shout about what we're doing, and that this is central to our plans for the county and for our residents. Thank you.
Councillor Sutton, then Councillor Price, and then I'll come back to Councillor Greatrix.
Okay, thank you, Leader. Can I firstly thank you for the comments you made in your opening remarks around children's services, and in particular the transformation process, and echo your comments about the staff, and in particular the leadership of the Deputy Chief Executive and her team in delivering transformation. And secondly, can I thank Councillor Greatrix for the comments that he's made in relation to children's services, and and listening to me at our interview, so we could have a good and frank exchange of views there. And in doing that, I think it helps both of us, myself, and then subsequently children's services and the staff that provide the services, and also the council in being able to see exactly what is being done. But if I can move particularly then to the strategic plan, and how pleased I am really that part of the strategic plan specifically identifies to make sure that we offer every Staffordshire child and young person the best start in life and the chance to achieve their potential, which I believe is absolutely essential in order to in order to deliver an overall strategy for Staffordshire. But if I can just pick out one particular part of the plan, and that is around the work that we are looking to do as groups of partners as well around early years. Early years are critical for laying the foundation for a lifetime of good health and well-being, and this time offers the greatest opportunity to make a long-term positive impact on what can be achieved later in life. And in Staffordshire, we have a really strong record of improving the uptake of early years places and have achieved really positive results. The good level of development in Staffordshire is particularly good. And stable, loving families give children and young people the very best start in life, and that is very much part of the aims of the strategic plan, but what we've been trying to do and are doing around children's transformation. And it's clear that some families will always need a little bit more formal advice and help and support, and we need to be in a position where we are able to do that, to ensure that later on in life those issues don't manifest themselves into more serious things. Thank you, Leader.
Councillor Price.
Yeah, thank you. Just building on some of the comments as well that Councillor Sutton has said, that we want every child and young person in Staffordshire, whatever the background, to have the opportunity to live happy and healthy lives, and that also feeds through to education and a good education. I'm really pleased to see as well within the document that it talks about high quality early years and school places which are accessible to all, including those with special educational needs and disabilities. And then building on as well on what success looks like, and Councillor Greatrex mentioned earlier as well, which is improved school attendance with more children educated locally and fewer children excluded from school. This follows on with the improved education attainment. We will continue to make sure that we have enough school places where housing and population is increasing. We have delivered free schools in those areas where housing development requires them, and we continue to do this. We're currently in the process of securing a sponsor for our latest free school at Deansdale Farm in Lichfield, and I've also brought numerous recommendations for increasing the size of our existing school sites. And this authority has a very, very good track record on not only building new schools, but expansion where required. Working with the sector through our Education and Skills Partnership, we will continue to convene, champion and challenge schools, particularly to work in partnership within their trusts, teaching school hubs and the district inclusion hubs to improve the outcomes for all of our learners. We want all of our schools working in strong partnership. And we will also, of course, continue to use our relationship with the Regional Schools Commissioner to challenge and support this sector. And finally, through our Alternative Provision Panel, we're overseeing some of our most vulnerable children and young people, ensuring they're provided with the appropriate alternative provision with plans in place so that all of our children are able to access full-time education. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed to Cabinet members. Councillor Greatrex, based on what you've heard, both in response to your observations and the presentation of the strategic plan, any concluding observations?
Yeah, it was good that there's some very strong examples that were expressed by members in terms of how they see their particular portfolio area being strong in class or best in class. In the case of Councillor Sutton, I think he referred to the service being, one of the best in the country. And I was pleased that Councillors DeVille and Tagg both echoed the comment that I made, that it's really two fundamental things that I think are perhaps needing more attention. One is the communications and one is the specifics. And I thought the analogy that would be useful, most people have had some experience of privatised industry. And if you look at a company report, there would be something really outlandishly positive as a statement, saying this brand is going to go this direction and it's going to be in everybody's face, or this service is so good that we want it to be universally available. And they're the sort of things that I think are perhaps missing from the communication that you see in front of you. It's just bringing out the nuggets of really strong things that you're particularly powerfully supportive of in terms of your services. So it's good that you've got those examples, and all I would say is that wherever possible, make them a bit more in your face, for want of a better expression, so that they're more stand out, in particular the ones that you think are best in class or particularly proud of.
Okay, well, thank you very much indeed for your comments, Councillor Greatrex, and thank you to Cabinet members for everything that you've done, and in particular highlighting the areas where we're making really good progress and the progress we intend to make over the next 4 years. We look forward to seeing the service plans so that they can be scrutinised and we can all be held to account for the delivery of those. There are 2 recommendations for this report. First of all, that we note the progress made in developing the Strategic Plan 2022-26, and that it be referred to the County Council for approval on the 10th of February 2022. And the second recommendation is that we agree that the Leader of the Council and the Chief Executive be authorised to finalise the details of the Strategic Plan 2022-2026 prior to final publication. I so move. All those in favour? It is approved. Moving on then to the next item on the agenda, which is the Medium-Term Financial Strategy 2022 to 2027. This is brought to you by myself and the Cabinet Member for Finance and Resources, Councillor Parry, but Councillor Parry is going to lead off on this. This is a document of extreme complexity. An organisation the size of Staffordshire County Council requires quite a lot of effort to make it work and make the numbers stack up, and the man we have leading that is Councillor Parry. So, Councillor Parry, we're with you.
Thank you for that. Good morning. My task this morning is to ask Cabinet to approve the medium-term financial plan and the budget for 2023-24, 2022-23, so sorry. And I have a number of recommendations for Cabinet to approve this morning, also to make recommendations to Council later this month. I'd like to start by saying thank you. Thank you to the County Treasurer, Rob Salmon, and his team for the tremendous hard work in putting this plan together. It's not been an easy year, clearly on the back of the COVID pandemic, and also the uncertainty around the financial settlements and other known unknowns, if you like, which I'll come on to talk about in a moment. But a particularly challenging year, and it's always challenging for the County Treasurer and his staff to put these things together at quite a compressed timescale, given that the final settlements are not necessarily known until a few days before Christmas, and then, of course, we have to have knowledge of the budget by early January. So it is a big ask and a lot of pressure on the department, but well led by the County Treasurer, and thank you to him and his staff. Also like to say thank you to Councillor Greatrex for strongly leading the budget scrutiny process through the working group. That's a crucial part of the process for me, and I'm sure it is for Cabinet and for the leader, in that we can have the assurance that this has been properly and thoroughly examined and scrutinised and given overview by that group, as I said, led by Councillor Greatrex, and we're really grateful to have that input to the process. I think this budget achieves a number of things. First of all, in a time of uncertainty, we still have an ambitious, strong, measured, realistic, brave, innovative budget to offer to Staffordshire residents. We're going to be investing more than £350 million in Staffordshire over the next 12 months, delivering on the mandate that we received from Staffordshire residents in the election and in our manifesto commitment. That spending includes spending on business development and school expansion, town centre regeneration, as well as additional investment in our roads and highways, preparing for the next generation of the gigabit broadband across the county, which will be crucial for business and individuals. We will continue to invest in the county as it supports to support the recovery from the pandemic, investing £46 million in supporting small businesses, in skills training, and in delivering health initiatives to help those with drug and alcohol addictions, and promoting other forms of public health. Hopefully tackling health inequalities, and particularly those caused by cold homes, as the leader has already referred to. So we are investing in the future of Staffordshire and its people, investing in infrastructure and public health so that residents can live healthier and live healthier lives for longer. We know that talking about those £46 million worth of investment in small businesses, that the money that we spend in Staffordshire attracts a further £6.50 per for every pound we spend in Staffordshire, it attracts an additional £6.50 of private and public sector investment. So the leverage is significant and impressive. But despite the many pressures on councils such as ourselves, including the mounting cost of social care, we're determined to invest in all we can do, and all we can do to keep the county growing in a sustainable way. We're building on the investment already made of £390 million in economic growth. That's delivered more than 10,000 jobs already and enabled more than 4,000 homes to be built. In the year ahead, work is also scheduled to begin on the Chatterley Valley West employment site in Newcastle, which will eventually create up to 1,700 jobs, and both the newly opened 17.4 million Lichfield bypass and the 63 million Stafford Western Access route will reduce congestion and open land for more economic development. So as we can see, Staffordshire is investing £18 million on school buildings, £1 million on the on broadband gigabit technology, £15 million, an extra £15 million on road repairs, plus £2 million for revenue spending on roads next year. This is all additional funding for Staffordshire. But on top of that, Leader, we're managing our way out of a pandemic which has brought all sorts of challenges to the county, and we've had to invest in supporting our communities and supporting the delivery of the response to the COVID pandemic. We received over £16 million worth of funding last year from government to deal with that, and that has been robustly and adequately spent through supporting communities and individuals and delivery of all sorts of support within the county. And importantly, we've been measured in terms of making sure that we deliver a balanced budget, that we have not taken unnecessary risk. This is a measured budget. We lacked the necessary certainty in terms of a 3-year settlement, which would have allowed us even greater opportunity to make greater investments in things that we want to invest in, such as our roads. That is something which is planned for the future. We've made, I think, a really important start this year in spending £15 million on the highway investment, but that will ramp up as soon as we have greater certainty. There are all sorts of other pressures and risks on the county that we're also having to manage around social care, for example, the social care white paper, the local government spending review, potentially in the spring to consider. So there are some risks and pressures on the horizon that makes us cautious about how we spend and how we set out our stall in terms of investment and our budget moving forward. But I think this is a really brave and ambitious and positive, but crucially realistic budget for this county, delivering that £350 million worth of investment across Staffordshire and delivering on our mandate. Leader, I need to make some recommendations, but I'll leave that until the end of the debate.
Thank you, Councillor Parry. Councillor Greatrex, can I add my thanks to Councillor Parry's words for the work that you've done through your medium-term financial strategy working group. I know you've spent a lot of time going through this, and if you'd like to take the opportunity now just to present your findings and some of the comments we've presented back to you, and then for Cabinet we will open it up to for your comments if you have any. Don't forget, this is we are making a recommendation to Council. It is for Council to set the budget, but this is our opportunity particularly to hear Councillor Greatrex's feedback. We're with you, Councillor Greatrex.
Thank you, Leader. Again, there is a circulated panel which has gone out today with the 21 recommendations that we made, and we'll go through those in fairly superficial level. I know Councillor Jessel's already referred to recommendations 1 to 3. If I can go through the ones that I wanted to highlight, recommendation 3 was about best practice on some of the areas of health and care. And again, I would say that there's what appears to be a lot of different systems are being looked at, some that I'd not heard of, like Rita and Oaks Vision and Ahmed and all those sort of things that the service is aware of. And again, I would say maybe bring them to the fore so that more members are aware of them and more members of the public are aware. On the recommendation 5, I should say that we picked out 4 subject areas, and they were adult social care, children's systems transformations, highways maintenance liability, and delivering capacity, particularly in terms of digital. They were the areas that we saw as being the biggest contributors to cost and potential savings. So we looked at those as our focus areas. So on children and young people, the comment that we made was in terms of some of the benefits that we've had from looking elsewhere. And one of the things that the MTFS group have benefited from, if there is such a thing as benefiting from the predicament we've been in the last couple of years, we haven't had the opportunity to have as many face-to-face meetings. So we've used that to bring in experts, if you like, from other authorities who we've been able to get very readily through Teams or Zoom. And we've used that to our advantage to establish a bit of expertise, if you like. And I know that every authority is going to be different and everybody's going to have their different challenges. And no two scenarios are exactly the same. But where we have, we've tried to bring in that knowledge from elsewhere to be, if you like, a little bit more armed in terms of our questioning for members of the Cabinet. So on children and young people, we've been aware of other authorities that have been using early detection mechanisms, and those have proven to be able to achieve low rates in children in care. So I see that the response is that there's a district integrated children and families team being created, and that hopefully will go in that direction. So hopefully it's mirroring the approach that we would like to see. I could spend a lot of time talking about highways and transport. Unfortunately, Councillor Williams has got a poison chalice, really, given that it's most members' highest postbag. But things like find and fix and greater emphasis on quality control are some of the things that we saw as being cost savers coming in from other authorities. And I'm pleased to see that you're looking at single street visits and right first time as potential solutions on that. I would just again identify that unless you've got some statistical evidence to show there's a trend in the positive direction, how do you know that what you're doing is working? And that's a general comment that I made when we talked about the strategic plan. And lastly, on recommendation 14, which is about finance and resources, and particularly digital. I know Councillor Parry attended the meeting when we talked about it, and the whole aspect of new means of working, things like artificial intelligence. The comment that you've given back is that resources are limited and development costs are large, and I do appreciate that, but that doesn't stop the likes of the Amazons and the Apples and the Googles of this world. If something's worth solving and providing a digital solution for a better way of working, it doesn't stop the commercial world following that path and looking for solutions. And I personally think that, again, whatever we're doing in the way of digital solutions needs to be more to the fore, and we need to be looking at what other people are doing and looking for opportunities to see those as cost-saving opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Greatrix. That was indeed a quick trot through a fairly substantial piece of work, but thank you for the concise nature of your presentation. Councillor Price, you indicated first.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. Thank you, Councillor Greatrix, as well. When I first got elected onto this authority some time ago, it does seem like a long time ago. One of the first committees that I went on was the MTFS working group. I had no idea how much work was involved behind the scenes on that, and it gave me a much better understanding of finance as well. And I'm really pleased to see that you're leading on that work as well. Really in depth and a very, very difficult subject. I just wanted to raise a couple of the items. In fact, sorry, I'd like to also thank the Leader and Councillor Parry as well for bringing this to us. It does show that we are a very resilient and well-run financial authority. I think we do an excellent job with the resources that we have to hand. I just wanted to talk about a couple of quick items, and those were 32, 33 and 34 within the report, which now shows that SEND is now part of our district structure and is starting to show early signs of our vision to bring different teams together. Our send and inclusion model is about providing support at the right time. Like many parts of the country, we are facing challenges within the high needs block. Our approach is to support inclusion across our education provision so that schools are confident in meeting the needs of those children and young people with educational healthcare plans. We are also expecting the SEND review sometime before the end of March, which we hope will support us in addressing the financial challenges that we will be facing. We also just wanted to comment just quickly as well around the main capital projects, which is included on page 83 of the written report. And there's some good news there that shows that we still have a full commitment around our schools. A new one-form entry first school at Park Farm, a new one-form entry primary school at Fradley Park, a new one-form primary school at Deansdale Lichfield, which I talked about earlier. All of these schools have been commissioned in response to rising pupil numbers in their respective locations, and that shows that our commitment to building schools and additional school places where they are needed. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Tagg.
Thank you, Leader. Yes, completely endorse this MTFS. I think this starts to deliver on the strategic plan we just agreed. And for my area, portfolio area, I'm really pleased to see the commitment in there for preparing for the arrival of the gigabit broadband, which will be that next step in moving forward from the superfast, which was installed for 97% of the county, and we're trying to deal with the other 3% as well to give them a decent connection. But the next thing is that gigabit leap, which this county council will be enabling, but the private sector will be delivering. I think also the commitment for the net zero carbon money that's going in there, particularly the energy efficiency light, street lights across the county, which make a massive difference to our carbon footprint. And also that money for businesses as well. I think as we recover from the pandemic, we need to invest in businesses and startups for businesses and helping them to grow. And I did the all-party working group, as you were aware, Leader, in the last term. And one of the big things was the County Council taking that lead in helping businesses to not only start up but grow. So I'm glad there's money in there for that. And for the highways commitments as well, where we start on delivering on that commitment to improve our highways. Also, I'm really pleased that there's ongoing money throughout this 5-year period for the climate change agenda. And of course, we've decided that we wish to be leaders in the county on leading towards that net zero target of 2050. That will require capacity, and I'm pleased the money has been put in there that will enable our staff and our officers to work with the districts, to work with businesses, and to work with our residents to reduce carbon emissions across the board.
Thank you, Councillor Tagg. And what you've done there is quite eloquently highlighted the competing priorities we have for our money across Staffordshire County Council, and the way that the finance team and Councillor Parry are able to deal with those competing priorities. We are going to rely on our partners to help us with this, and through Councillor Wilson's portfolio and the communities that she's in contact with, we look to our communities to help us support the delivery of this plan and the MTFS that supports it. Because we can't do it all alone, and there is no sense that we will be doing it alone. We're developing our partnerships across the county really well, particularly examples including the leaders board that's just been set up and initiated, and work through the Staffordshire Parish Council Association and other bodies helping us to deliver. Councillor Williams, and then I'm going to go back to Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Leader, and I'd like to thank you and Councillor Parry for bringing this report, very detailed report to us, and also for Councillor Greatrex's comments. As I stated before, this investment is not as much as we would hope for, but I think £15 million in capital and £1 million in revenue demonstrates this administration's commitment to looking after and improving our highways as best as we can in a considered and prudent manner. And I think that's the right way to go forward, to make sure that we are funding it in a way that we can afford, especially in the current financial climate from this council. It has now begun a positive journey, which will include both staff, members of the public and members of the council itself, in a way to go forward and provide our highway service. Gritting service will currently be taking place, which I want to thank our staff for out there, will be continued. This will enable greater permanent right first time works to be delivered, reducing the amount of Cat 3s that are outstanding out there in our communities when they're repairing other Cat 1 and Cat 2 defects. And this will show an improvement, hopefully, in our amount of complaints and in the quality of our red roads, and the number of our red roads will be reduced. It will also enable us to create a greater member interface and control from community highways teams. That will mean that the members will be able to work more closely with their community teams and get the work that they want done prioritised. This also includes a £500,000 inclusive customer portal, which we've trialled and will be rolling out, so that the members of the public will have what we call the Amazon experience when reporting defects, but also enabling a computer chatbot to enable people who cannot use the internet or do not want to do that, to be able to ring up and actually utilise a system where they will be able to talk to a computer-enabled voice that will enable them to report defects and get responses. This is actually making sure that we include all of our communities and not exclude them. Also, this money will also be from the trial that we've already taken place with the gully cleansing, will enable us to continue more gully cleansing, which will also enable our roads to be, one, less flooded, but two, also reduce the amount of repair that's required due to the flooding that takes place. I really want to thank both the Cabinet Member for Finance and Rob Salmon and his team for putting this together, because this is a strong commitment. This is a strong statement that says we are going to invest in our highways, we do want some change, but we're going to do it in the right way so that we are not putting ourselves in a position where in the future we haven't got the money to be able to pay for that. And I think it is the right way to go forward, and I thank them. Thank you, Leader.
I've got Councillor Wilson, Councillor McMahon. I'll come back to Councillor Greatrex for any concluding remarks he might have, and then Councillor Parry, if you could sum up what you've heard and give us the recommendations at that point. Councillor Wilson, please.
Thank you. I think we can all agree that Staffordshire really is a lovely place to live. People generally tell us that they are happy to live in Staffordshire, particularly in Stafford and also South Staffs, where I understand 93% of the community are really happy with what they have to deal with down there. The council's doing so much, obviously, as we've heard, to make life better for everyone to live, work and play here. Issues with highways, of course, are on occasion the only thing that members of the public can actually see. But thank goodness that's what people are focusing on. It shows that, by and large, life is good for people in Staffordshire. But of course, we know that we must never be complacent, and we recognise that highways, children's transformation and the health of our customers in the county is always being worked on, always being checked, balanced and scrutinised. Communities, of course, helps with this in their sometimes very small ways and sometimes in much bigger ways. They do underpin all the work that we do in our strategic plan, supplementing our priorities with their projects. I absolutely welcome this MTFS. I believe it's robust while being safe but also ambitious. Investment of £90 million is no small feat, but it does show how much we care for our members, our customers in this county. Supporting communities through the COVID Recovery Fund, £16 million has been exceedingly successful. Some of the really positive stories that we've heard from various community groups are absolutely overwhelming. This council is determined to provide our communities with the very best offer possible. We're delivering through our library service, our digital service, our archive service and our trading standards team, and sometimes we don't shout loudly enough about that. We're also working with our countryside and parks team, providing a safe, clean and beautiful area in which to spend our free time. And obviously, as alluded to by our leader, the voluntary element within the county is second to none, I'd go as far to say. This MTFS is aimed at delivering the big things in this county, but also the other essentials that we don't talk about much. And I'd like to say how really grateful I am to this administration and the leader and cabinet member for such an excellent plan. Thank you.
Councillor McMahon.
Thank you, Leader. And thank you for Councillor Greatrex for the board's comments. Just as regards public health and giving people the opportunity to take more healthy choices, I think you've touched on an opportunity there. There are a cohort of people now, perhaps quite a large cohort, who really want to take their health more seriously as a result of the pandemic. and that's given us an opportunity. We recognise the burden of health in our community, particularly obesity and mental health. And we intend to be numbers and outcomes rich so people can see that the money that's being spent is working well for us and delivering on public health. So we will use the post-COVID comms opportunity that's available to us, and we'll do all we can to make people healthier and happier as a result of the choices they make. It's also the case, as mentioned, that the Leaders Board and the unique relationship that we now have with the district and boroughs gives us a great opportunity for the future. We're responsible for public health. The districts and boroughs are responsible for the wider determinants of health. And clearly they go hand in glove. And we will take advantage of that relationship and do everything we can to deliver good public health for our residents. Thank you.
Before I come to you, Councillor Greatrix, Councillor DeVille's got a very small interjection.
I'll be very, very brief, Leader. Thank you. Leader, Mr. Williams is absolutely right. We're totally committed to delivering the very best excellent services to our customers. We're also, Leader, committed to helping people who need it most. We've always done that. We'll continue to do that. Leader, thank you and Mr. Parry and Mr. Salmon's excellent team for all the background work that's needed to deliver such an excellent report. I support the recommendations totally. And I think there's two things that we can consider, Leader, moving forward. Firstly, you're right, Mrs. Wilson, there's no complacency whatsoever. We continue to face rather challenging financial situation moving forward. And I think secondly, you know, this money is not our money, Leader. It's the money of the Staffordshire taxpayer. And as an administration, we've always concentrated on best use of that money, and we'll continue to do so. We'll continue to spend this money in the very best way and continue to cut a garment according to our cloth. I think we have to. But you're right, Mrs. Wilson, there's no complacency whatsoever with the future still being uncertain. Thank you, Leader.
Councillor Greatrix, any comments to conclude with before I hand over to Councillor Parry?
Well, just to pick up on a few strands, thank you, Councillor Price, remembering what it's like on the MTFS. I look around the room, there's quite a few ex-MTFS members here. We have tried to do something different, as I say, bringing in experts, and welcome any comments on how we might improve on that. Just to pick on some of the other comments, Councillor Jessel already referred to the importance of the voluntary sector, which I think we identified as one of our recommendations. Interesting, the two references to COVID, Councillor Wilson's comment saying that the recovery fund was well used, and I think that is something we recognise as being extremely well committed. And interestingly, Councillor McMahon's comment about the opportunity, if you like, of health. I think there are things changing there, and that should make the MTFS work easier as people work with the authorities to try and improve their health. And I think the MTFS group recognise all the problems. Councillor Tagg's referred to the competing priorities, which I think you referred to as well, Leader. And Councillor Parry on his introduction saying the difficulties of a one-year settlement. I don't think that's anything that's particularly helpful. And certainly the moving platforms of all these things happening all at once haven't been helpful either. And lastly, just to comment back on Councillor Williams' comment, we did actually say on recommendation 20 that we support the 15.5 million one-year priority programme on the high need areas.
Thank you very much indeed, Councillor Greatrix. Councillor Parry, we're with you to sum up and give us the recommendations, please.
Thank you, Leader, and thanks again to Councillor Greatrix. The MTFS is, of course, the resourcing plan to our corporate, our strategic plan, and there should be and is a clear connection between the two as it sets out how we will resource our priorities that exist within the strategic plan. And Councillor Greatrix quite rightly set down the challenge to us to say, well, where's the tangibles in this? What can we look and feel and touch, if you like, from the community's point of view, from people that we serve's point of view? Where is the evidence, therefore, of doing all of those things that we set out in our strategic plan at a high level? The evidence, in a sense, is right here in the medium-term financial plan, as it sets out in great detail how we are going to fund and invest in those priorities that we've set out in our strategic plan. And that's really the tangible evidence of what we're trying to deliver here in the County Council. So I do thank, again, the work of the MTFS working group, led strongly by Councillor Greatrex, in helping us to ensure that we are properly challenged, properly scrutinised in that work of putting together this medium-term financial strategy and indeed the strategic plan itself. That's a crucial part of the process, and I'm really grateful for that work. It makes the whole thing much more transparent and much more assured as we propose these things to Council. And that's what I'd like to do now, is to ask the Cabinet to accept some recommendations, and for Cabinet to recommend to Council a set of recommendations. Don't propose to read all of them out, because there's quite a lot, and most of it is quite technical in a sense. I would just like to highlight the fact that this budget requires a council tax increase of 2.99%, of which 1% is the social care precept and is ring-fenced for social care purposes. Something like 2/3 of our expenditure is also on looking after people. So in addition to that 1%, a sizable chunk of the other 2%, or 1.99%, is also going to be used clearly for looking after people. That requires, therefore, for illustrative purposes, that a Band D property would have a council tax of £1,401.30 for the year 2022-23. So moving on to the other recommendations, I won't read them out in detail unless you want me to, Leader. What I will say is that I recommend to Cabinet the recommendations as printed in the report from paragraph A through to paragraph G. I therefore move.
Thank you very much indeed, Councillor Parry. We've all read the recommendations. We know what they contain. All those in favour? That is unanimous. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes this morning's Cabinet meeting. Thank you very much indeed for your time, and I will see you all again soon.